All right, hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Trading Bitcoin with your host, Vays. Coming to you live from the airport, where my flight should be boarding in about 30 minutes to Sao Paulo. I'll be there. Well, you can see that it's evening behind me, so I'll be there in the morning. It's about a 10-hour flight. All right, just want to take a look at the price of Bitcoin because I just don't know when I'll get another chance. I don't know what my day will be like tomorrow. Land in the morning, never been to the country, don't know the language at all, don't know Portuguese. And I'm not prepared like I usually am for travel. So, but I think someone's picking me up at the airport, which is convenient. So let's go to the charts. Let's take a look at Bitcoin and go from there. I am heading to Sao Paulo to speak at an event called Crypto Minds. If you are in Sao Paulo, you may want to check it out. Also, before I get on with the charts, so I really wanted to go see the waterfall. I really wanted to go right there. Well, that's just the closest hotel. But the waterfall, why isn't this updating? There it is. The waterfall is here, right there. I should do this. That's probably what I should do. All right, that makes sense. And yeah, it's super cool. Like I really wanted to go there, but I don't know. I would rush the trip, and surprisingly, it's unreasonably expensive to fly from here to here, and then to Rio, and then I would have to like rush, like 2 nights at the waterfall. It is beautiful though, and then only 1 night or 2 nights in Rio before going to Panama. So I may skip it. I may have to purposely just go there. It's just so in the middle of nowhere, but I guess I'll have to come back to Brazil, guys. Let's see how this first trip goes. But I've said that about so many countries, and I've never been back. Like I've said that about countries 10 years ago, and I'm like, oh my God, this is incredible. I'll be back next year. And now it's been a decade and I still haven't been back. So, all right, it's a tough decision. Still a very tough call, but to go. But I don't know anyone in Rio. So if you want to grab a drink in Rio, hit me up. Otherwise, I'll just go to bars by myself, which is probably not the smartest thing to do. We need your help to make sure we all right. Let's go to the charts. A few simple guidelines. First, always wear a face covering inside the terminal and on board the aircraft. Second, wash your hands. Yeah, I know I shouldn't skip it. But honestly, it would cost me almost like $5,000 to just like not. I mean, I can do it cheaper, but it will cost me at least $3,000. I mean, a round trip flight within Brazil is like $1,200-$1,300 as it is, plus hotel, plus all the stuff.
Thanks for helping us look out for each other. And from all of us at United, stay safe and be well.
I don't know. I mean, I still have a chance, but it's such a tough call. Also, going there by yourself would be kind of boring. So I don't know. It's a tough call. I've been thinking about it for like a week, and now everything's just going up in price. So I don't know. It would suck to skip it, but I may have to skip it. I'm not doing a 24-hour bus, guys. Those days are behind me. No more. I've done that. I've done like a 12-hour bus through rural Philippines. Those days are behind. I'm doing a 24-hour bus through Brazil. But thanks for the tip. All right, so the weekly chart hasn't changed. It's gonna be the most boring stream ever. The 4-day chart hasn't changed. We're still in a cash position. The daily chart hasn't changed from this morning when I did the stream. So that hasn't changed either. I haven't actually looked at these charts before I did the stream. I'm just at the airport killing time right now. And the 1 hour chart, wow, that's a crazy downtrend right there. So GBTC went up a little bit. The premium didn't go up that much. So we have to wait and see. Still bullish on oil. Still bullish on gold. Still bearish on the stock market. There's something I want to say on, I was going to say something on the stock market, but no, I think I said that this morning. DXY. Let's talk about DXY. I still think the dollar has topped. I still think the dollar has topped. I really do. We had a daily MRI top inside a weekly MRI top, which is still happening. It's a long week. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Why are there 10 of them? How many days are in a week? Oh, that's a 12-hour chart. That's why. My bad. I thought this was a daily chart. And I'm like, why are there so many W's here? Hold on, my bad. Let me put a daily chart on. Okay. That's better. Only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days in a week so far. Not 9. So I still think the dollar has topped. I know the 12-hour and the daily, we've already gone past it a little bit, but we're still on the weekly MRI top, and we're still on the monthly MRI top. And the month's almost over. We got about 3 days to go. And the week's almost over. We got about 3 days to go. So I still think that this was a monster exponential rise in the dollar. It almost rivals this one here. Okay, that's a big rise. And this was, 2014, 2015 when Europe was collapsing. So a lot of this is the euro. Remember, 60% of DXY is the euro. So this is effectively the euro dollar exchange rate, which is a disaster. Someone asked me a very specific question in one of my group chats the other day, and I will just read the question. The specific question was as follows. Hey, Tone, would love to hear your opinion on this. If we zoom out the dollar index, we can see this cup and handle forming since January 2003. It looks roughly 5 years for the January 2003 top of a cup and handle to reach the bottom of the cup. Assuming it takes another 5 years for the dollar index to reach the price target after the handle we are at now, it would reasonably coincide with the amount of time needed for a Bitcoin multi-year correction, 1 to 4 years, since Bitcoin is at a 9-year top. Do you think this cup and handle will materialize in light of current world events? War, economic disconnect, weakening of the US, because if it does, we can see, okay, so anyway, the point is this. Let's go back to DXY. Let's go back to the DXY. And I'm gonna look at a monthly chart. Let's look at a yearly chart. No. So I don't actually see a cup and handle here. I just see, here's the monthly chart. So I don't need this line anymore. We're not going there. That's over. What I think is going to happen is we're going to break out. And I think we're going to break out probably 50%. It's possible we're gonna go to all-time high. It's possible. As bearish as I am on the United States and the US government, I am more bearish on the European government. And because 60% of this index is the euro, there's really no bound to how high the dollar can go, because I think the euro is going to implode. I've been, in my presentation, I've been talking about the euro imploding since probably 2015 when I started doing presentations. I can't believe euro has survived this long. It's really, I mean, things happen very slowly, and like you overestimate how quickly things move, and then you underestimate how quickly they end. You know, sorry, you underestimate. I think you get the point. So the euro collapse is happening very slowly, but when it starts, it will conclude very quickly. Okay. So what do I think is going to happen? Well, what I think will happen is, I think the euro is going to implode. The only counter argument to the euro imploding is Western Europe becoming the former Soviet Union, completely uniting, unifying the debt, and combining all those countries into states of the United Nations of Europe. In which case, the euro becomes what the Russian ruble was during the Soviet Union. Because to me, Western Europe is now following full-blown Marxist ideology. It's a full-blown Marxist ideology over in Europe. So I expect countries to split and the euro to break up. Okay. In that scenario, the US dollar's value goes very, very high. Okay. The dollar value goes high. In that scenario, after the US dollar goes very, very high, the US is going to have its own demise. And the insane value of that dollar is going to help lead to the US demise. A very strong US dollar shows that, you know, people still need the dollar. And while this is happening, by the way, I'm expecting the yuan and the ruble to also go a lot stronger. I mean, Europe has a lot of wealth, and that wealth is about to be destroyed in the next 5 to 10 years. It'll be gone. It'll be confiscated. It'll be stolen. It'll be, or it doesn't even exist because Europe is so indebted. They've been in negative interest rates for 5, 6 years. Everyone is expecting these lavish pensions. They're not going to get them. So all this wealth in Europe is going to be gone. But before all that wealth in Europe disappears, it's going to get transferred somewhere else. And Bitcoin is going to be another beneficiary. So the mistake in the question is believing that the rise in the dollar is somehow going to depress the value of Bitcoin. And that is not true at all. The value of the dollar rising can happen simultaneously with Bitcoin. Okay. Right here, Bitcoin was still in the bear market, but Bitcoin got out of its bear market in 2015 and then kept going higher and higher and higher. Okay. Just because the dollar will be rising doesn't mean that Bitcoin will be falling. They're completely unrelated because 99% of what moves Bitcoin is speculation in Bitcoin. It is not whether the dollar is rising or falling. Okay. Nick, that's a good question. Tone needs to think about the military and how far the U.S. will go for the U.S. I agree, but if I believe the United States will split into multiple countries by the end of this decade, and most of the military, while it is controlled by the North, unlike the 1850s and the Civil War, where most of the military personnel were from the North and controlled by the North, most of the young boys that go to the military, and some girls, they're mostly from the South. So this time around, if Florida, Texas, and a bunch of red states in between decide to split the United States and form a different country, or that remains the United States and the North becomes, the Socialist Republic of former United States, or whatever the hell it is, it doesn't mean that the military stays in the North. It could mean that the military would support the South, because that's where most of the military people are. Like, as big of a population as there is in New York, not a lot of New Yorkers are going into the military, guys, or Californians, right? How many people from how many people did you go to high school with in LA or New York went to the military, So the military personnel, they're mostly from the South, okay? So don't assume that the military is going to start shooting Floridians and Texans. I don't think that's going to happen. I think if the U.S. splits, it will actually be peaceful. I don't think it'll be a violent breakup. I think it's just inevitable, because the divide between the Democrat and Republican, the amount of people I see wearing masks at the airport still, even though the mandate's gone, is scary, to say the least. But in any case, so what happens to assets? What happens to the markets in this scenario? When the US dollar spikes, no one wants to buy US goods because they're too expensive. And the US doesn't produce much. It really doesn't. We don't have a manufacturing base that exports out of the country. We do sell oil, but most countries buy from Russia. Not a lot of countries around the world need our goods. A lot of countries around the world buy our military. Our military is one of our biggest exports. Weapons. Weapons is one of America's biggest exports. Oh, and vaccines. Don't forget vaccines. But they give those away for free, right? Because they just want to get everybody vaccinated. Well, no, I'm sorry. They don't give them away for free. You get the shot for free. The governments of all the countries pay the pharmaceutical companies and other governments, but that's going to stop, right? Because other countries just won't have the money. So when that happens, the US will start taking on huge debts, because it's not going to have too many exports at such a high valuation of the dollar. And the big price of the US dollar will lead to the dollar's demise. Look what happened here back in 1985, when the US dollar went up exponentially. Look what happened after. Now, the US dollar never fell below 80. It kind of stabilized there. But this time, I believe that it will. It'll do something like this. It would be similar. And if I go to the, let's go to the oil chart, because I have it open. If I put a monthly oil chart up, I believe the US dollar will do something like this. Okay. It'll do something like this, like what oil did back in 2008. And then this monster crash. Now, oil didn't go lower than its base, but its base was pretty damn low. Okay. Now, it's also possible that the dollar will not go down to 60. It's also possible that the dollar would only go down back to like 85 or 90. And then it's a matter of, if the US splits, and I'm not saying that it 100% will, but if the US splits, who gets to keep the dollar name? It's kind of like when Ethereum splits, who gets to keep the Ethereum name? The miners that are not going to shut down and fork Ethereum, or Vitalik gets to keep the name. Vitalik will probably get to keep the name. The question is, if the US splits, who gets to keep the dollar? Is it going to be the South, or is it going to be the North, where Washington and New York are? It's probably going to be the North, and the South will have another currency. Maybe it'll be Bitcoin. I know the North ain't going to have Bitcoin, right? So we'll see. We'll see. So if, let's say, the South splits off and makes Bitcoin as their currency of the South, then this can go down like that, right? If the South gets to keep the dollar, then it could only go down like this, and then it will remain somewhat strong. But in either way, what goes up exponentially eventually comes down just as hard. Another example, and these examples are everywhere, right? The examples are in the stock market as well. I mean, you can look at Netflix, we can look at stocks, but I'm just going to pull up the historical Dow Jones. If I go to indices and I'm going to pull up the Dow, and we can go to a yearly chart.
For those of you who would like to enjoy our versatile device entertainment during the flight, please download or update the United app on your device before boarding the aircraft.
So here's the Dow Jones.
During the flight.
Let's go to a log chart.
Safety is our priority, so we want to take a moment to share a few important reminders.
Here's the Dow Jones yearly chart, and the dollar will do something similar. It may not reach, you know, all the way here, but it's gonna hurt. So that's what I'm expecting.
And they cannot go into the cargo area of the aircraft. Batteries and smart bags also need to be removed.
All right, now let me look at your comments.
Customers in boarding groups 1 through 4. They bring.
Yeah, I'm expecting this in 5 to 10 years, maybe 12 years. So what happens to Switzerland? Oh, Switzerland's done. Switzerland is not neutral at all. Everything that Switzerland did to avoid Germany from taking over their country, they've abandoned all those principles. And Switzerland is just another European nation listening to Klaus Schwab and the Great Reset and you know, the fourth industrial revolution, and you own nothing and be happy. I wouldn't be surprised if Switzerland takes away all the guns from its citizens. I don't see any hope for Switzerland. Sorry. We're in Brazil. I am going to Sao Paulo, and then I am probably going to skip Iguazu Falls. Sorry, not Iguazu, Igiaku Falls. And I'm probably going to go to Rio. I'll do Sao Paulo and Rio, but I will have to come back to visit Foz do Iguaçu. And what if things with Europe does not happen in 5 to 10 years? Well, I don't know. I mean, that's the scenario I'm anticipating, right? I don't see how Europe is going to reverse it, right? I mean, maybe if Marine Le Pen won the French election, this would be very different. So the Macron won the French election again, and this tells me where Europe's going. Had Macron lost to Le Pen, Europe could have turned itself around, but like, no, like all the core countries of Europe continue to elect socialists that are brainwashed by Klaus Schwab's Marxist ideology. So I don't see any hope for Europe. The only country in Europe that actually seems to know what they're doing is Hungary. Now, Europe is very mad at Hungary, and they're probably going to kick Hungary out of the euro because they are not following this socialist Klaus Schwab Marxist ideology. And also Hungary is, they're probably going to be supporting Russia in this in this fight with Ukraine. And they're going to continue to do business with Russia. USD will end this falling. How is USD falling? I mean, it's falling versus the ruble. I don't really see it, and maybe the Chinese yuan, but the Chinese yuan is pegged to the dollar. I don't understand. Like here's the weird part, right? Like Israel just announced that they've added the yuan to its holdings, 2%. But the yuan is pegged to the dollar. Like it's in a band. Like the Chinese keep a steady value of the yuan to the US dollar. I mean, I could be wrong. You can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't even have the Chinese currency here. I don't think I do, because no, that's the Swiss franc. Do I even have the Chinese currency up? Because like, there's no point of there's never been a point of looking at it, because it's completely controlled by the central bank of China. So I don't even like. I don't see why we would bother. USD. What is the ticker? It's not C8. Like, I don't know what the ticker is for the yuan. CNY? I think it's CNY. Like, I never look at this. I never look at it because it's irrelevant to look at, because it's not a free floating currency. So I don't understand. Like, yeah, it went up, but it didn't really go up. Like, it's an illusion of going up. It's up 4%, you know, whoopee, big deal. Like, it doesn't move. It's in a band. I mean, they control it. That's why no one cares. I mean, yeah, it went up in the last few months because obviously the United States are doing the like you can think of the stupidest geopolitical moves the United States can do, and they managed to do worse than that on the global geopolitics stage. So that's why you have the Chinese currency rising, even though it's fully controlled by China. And then you have the Russian ruble rising a lot. Well, sorry, the Russian ruble is falling against the dollar. Which one did I look up? USD, CNY. Wait, so the Chinese yuan is falling against the dollar. Okay, so the dollar is actually appreciating against the Chinese currency. You now need more Chinese currency, but look at the difference, right? Instead of 6.3 yuans, it's now 6.6. So it's just these are meaningless differences. They're meaningless differences. But if you look at the ruble is doing something. That's a move. Those are moves. So I don't understand why Israel would add the Chinese currency into their reserve. It's not a free market currency. So it's like none of them are really free market, but that one is significantly less so than anything else they were holding. So they should have put Bitcoin in their portfolio. Like, it just makes no sense at all. The USA consists of DC, New York, California, Connecticut, New Hampshire. I wouldn't say New Hampshire. I think you mean Massachusetts. New Hampshire is actually pretty America. Massachusetts is pretty bad. I would put Massachusetts there. The state of Mitt Romney. who for I don't know what reason is a Republican. He's as Democrat as they come. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you meant Massachusetts. And as you guys know, I'm expecting the Ukrainian currency to go back into hyperinflation. So I just don't see a scenario where Europe doesn't go full blown. We're taking away your wealth because you're rich. Well, like I don't see how the taxes in Europe don't go to 98%. Like I just don't. I just don't. I mean, there are politicians they can elect. They Nigel Farage in the UK, but UK, at least the UK got out of that nightmare. But we'll see. Is Hungary really that poor? Can someone verify that? I've never been to Hungary. I never thought of them as a poor country. Tone, who was the guy you and Jenks interviewed a few years ago about big time cycles and politics? I honestly don't remember. I don't remember doing that interview. Hey, Clipper. Yeah, I'm finally coming to Brazil, but I mean, unless you're in Sao Paulo or Rio, I doubt I get to see you. And also, you got to find a way to get a hold of me. What do I think about Luxembourg? I don't really think about Luxembourg. I honestly would not be able to point it out on a map. And I have a degree in geology, and I've taken multiple geography courses, and I will not be able to pick Luxembourg out on a map if it didn't say Luxembourg.
Hello, and welcome to the friendly sky. At United, safety is just as important on the ground as it is in the air. So we need your help to make sure we all stay safe together by following a few simple guidelines. First,
All right, guys.
always wear a face
My
covering
flight should be
inside
boarding
the curtain
soon,
and on board the aircraft.
so I should probably wrap this up.
Wash your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds.
Before I do,
When possible,
come out to the financial summit in the Dominican Republic, where we're going to dive deep into these financial matters and what it can do to markets. What do I think about Estonia? I think Estonia needs to be real careful not to put themselves in the Ukraine position, in which case there would be no more Estonia. Estonia and Latvia and Lithuania are about to start playing with fire. You guys know my advice. My advice for Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania is to dump NATO before there is no more Estonia, Latvia, or Lithuania.
Or about 2 arms lengths from others. These are important friendly steps.
Because making an in-person course in Brazil is a lot of effort, and based on my current viewership, I just don't think I'll be able to fill a room. I'm sorry, guys.
And from all of us at United, stay safe and be well.
You guys have no idea how much effort it takes to organize a simple dinner, not to mention events like this that you see on the screen. I haven't kept up with what the latest is on Russia versus Ukraine. I know it's supposed to be my new job, but I'm just trying to get the right people to come to this event. JC, I would love to go back to Tijuana, man. I had a good time in Tijuana. If I lived in San Diego, I'd be in Tijuana like every other weekend.
May I attention, ladies and gentlemen, this is the last final call, line number 82, we started to Delhi to the mark 123. Once again, final call, line number 82, we started to Delhi to the mark 123. Last call for passenger Sharu today, Ubeja, proceed immediately to gate 123.
Isn't Luxembourg the richest country? Well, if Luxembourg is the richest country, then that's going to be the first one that Klaus Schwab would take away all their wealth so that people own nothing and are happy. No, I think my flight boards in 10 minutes. I don't think I want to miss my flight, guys. I'm checking on my phone right now. Yeah, it boards in about 10-15 minutes. I keep trying to get my family. Dimitro, I see your comment. I have no idea what they're saying on Russian TV because I have no access to that because the US is censoring that. So I can't validate your statements on what they're saying. So I have no idea. But I've been telling my family to get out of New York for a long time now, but nobody wants to move. Hey, Mal, thank you for posting the Financial Summit link. So the other question is, what would stocks do in that scenario? And I think the US stocks will probably rise with the US dollar. Guys, can you really? Oh, that's my flight.
This is an international flight that requires that you have a mask on board.
Oh, you gotta be shitting me.
Ladies and gentlemen, you must wear a mask on this flight.
They just said I have to wear a mask on this flight.
Before you board, you'll need to have your mask on. As you board, please make sure you have your mask on as it is required on board the aircraft.
What am I gonna get a woman in my life? I'm working on it. So, wait, what was I gonna say? I was gonna say something. Oh yeah, this is what I was gonna say, guys. You can't exactly be angry. Well, you can be angry, but
é necessário máscara facial para este voo. De acordo com o governo brasileiro,
you have to understand that Russian people, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, so between 1990 And recently, Russian people really liked American people. They really, really did. But you have to realize that since the moment Hillary lost the election, everything and anything the United States has done since the day Trump won was to blame everything on Russia. And that is now 5 years, 6 years, 6 years, 6 years of nonstop anti-Russian propaganda in America. And what do you think happens when one country starts to spew nonstop propaganda blaming another country for 6 years? So yeah, eventually the country that you're blaming everything on because she lost the election to Trump and the media ran with it for 6 years, culminated in a new Cold War, pretty much. And and if you've been watching the mainstream media for the last 6 years, you would of course blame Russia for this. But if you realize that it was all propaganda from day one, because it was impossible for Hillary to lose to Trump, right? It had to be Russia that did it. And ever since then, everything was blamed on Russia. Biden forgot his laptop at some, some shop. Well, Russia did it, right? Everything was Russia. Everything was blamed on Russia. Everything. Biden trips up the stairs going to an airplane. Russia did it. Everything and anything has been blamed on Russia for the last 6 years. So if finally there are ads on Russian TV, hatred towards America, you have a general idea as to what culminated that. But I have no idea what's on Russian TV, right? Like I don't have access to that. Is the Dominican Republic a good place to go to? It's a small island. The event is a good event to go to. But I don't know. I mean, I've been to the Dominican Republic a bunch of times. I don't know if I would live there. I'd rather live in Panama or Mexico, and let's see what Brazil has to offer. I wouldn't live in DR, but it's an amazing vacation spot. All right, guys. That's it for me. Thank you all for watching. See you all on the next stream from Brazil. And yeah, I mean, I have a bunch of people to hang out with in Sao Paulo because of the conference. But when I head off to Rio, let's see who DMs me. Talk to you all later, guys.